So let us move on to taxes. We have several questions from viewers. I'm going to just sort of throw out the tax question, and we'll maybe see where this leads us. A viewer in Deerwood is concerned about Social Security income and state tax, wonders if the legislature is going to address that this year. A viewer from southern Minnesota is of the view that perhaps we should use part of the state sales tax to support education. We have, of course, the usual questions that occur in a normal election, or I shouldn't say election year, but in the year following an election year, which is the budget year for the legislature, and what the tax bill might look like. Where are we going to go on the tax question, and who wants to take a run at that first? Well, let's start with you, Senator Pratt.
He's a member of the tax committee.
See, there you go.
I'm the newest member of the tax committee. You know,
closest thing we have to an expert here, so we're looking to you.
Well, thank you. There are a lot of priorities that we have to tackle in taxes, and we've talked about virtually all of these issues. Certainly, we had Social Security tax relief that we've been trying to push through. We've had too many members or too many residents moving out of state after they retire. We've seen what state tax can do to families and small business owners, where they have to sell the business or sell the family farm in order to pay the estate tax. I want to make sure that the families can continue to pass those down the line. But they all come with a price tag. It's a few million here, a few million there, another 10 million over here, and pretty soon you've eaten up a lot of money, and yet we've still got to cover the needs for health care. We still need to cover the needs for our education system. We need to continue to support our construction of roads and bridges. And so I think we're going to find that after the February forecast, we're going to be doing a little bit of balancing act.
Senator Bach, tax bills are nothing new to you. You've been here a long time, right?
Well, former chair of the committee also. You know, every 2 years, every dollar's in competition. And we've got a new legislature now, and they're going to have their own priorities. I don't know where the leadership is going to fall as it relates to budget targets. You know, what are we going to spend in K-12 and higher ed? And the chief judge was in to see me and told me that the courts need about $51 million in order to continue to run our judicial system. High priority for me is doing something with our transportation infrastructure. I know Senator Gazelka, the leader in the Senate, feels pretty strongly about doing some kind of a reinsurance program in our individual health care market to try to get control of some of those premium increases we've been seeing. Very expensive, maybe in the neighborhood of $150 million a year. And if we don't find some way to put an assessment on, we've got to find general fund for those kind of things. So there's a lot of competing needs. And the truth is $1.4 billion is a lot of money. And that's what our surplus is right now in the most recent forecast. But in the context of a $43 billion budget, it's about 3%. And there is some normal inflation in the budget.
And some mandatory reserves, too, as I recall.
Well, that the Senate actually put into law in 2014. We really can't be dipping into our budget reserves at a time of surplus. They're really intended to be there for when the economy turns south to build a bridge over revenue shortfalls. So I'm hoping we don't do that to just try and build a budget because we're probably closer to the next recession than away from the last one. Those economic cycles come. So I just urge restraint on the spending side, both on the appropriations and on the tax bill, so that we don't find ourselves in a situation of the next legislature managing a deficit because we've either cut taxes too far or overspent.
Representative Torkelson?
Well, Senator Bach brings up some good points. Thank goodness we do have a surplus right now. It does make our work a little easier. I can't help but look back briefly to last session, which is a little painful for me personally, but we did have a tax bill that was broadly supported by the legislature, with about 89% of the legislature voting for it, but received a pocket veto from the governor over a fairly minor wording error. I would hope that many of those provisions of that tax bill actually come back to this year's tax bill. One of those is some property tax relief for farmers who are paying towards school bond issues, building bond issues in their school districts. Our rural districts are dominated by agricultural property, And because those property values have accelerated pretty dramatically over the last few years, they're starting to settle down now, but still that property tax burden is unusually high and falls very heavily on the ag community, especially in our rural districts. So that relief would be very helpful, and relief that is supported by a lot of folks and was in last year's tax bill. That's important, at least to many parts of the state. So I'm optimistic that we will have a tax bill that's similar to the one that passed last year with strong bipartisan support, and that we can get that back to the governor and get it signed. It will, of course, be part of the overall negotiations. As chair of transportation, I'm interested in revenue too, because I haven't been chair very long, and it's my first time actually on the transportation committee, but I've discovered it takes money to build roads. Newsflash.
Who knew, right? Who
Yeah,
knew?
who knew?
Representative Omar, tax bills. Any thoughts on that topic?
Well, I don't think I have much to add to what the experts have shared. But what I believe, I think a core belief of mine is that we all have to pay our fair share and pay into the tax system. And I think the current budget that the governor is proposing does have money in it, so that the farmers that are struggling with their property taxes get the relief that they need, and other amazing things. And so I'm hoping that the party that is in leadership takes this opportunity to make sure that Minnesotans are in the right trajectory in the next year.
Barry, the challenge with tax bills is you never really need one. You need the appropriation bills that fund state government and keep funding our schools and our colleges and the courts and other things. But tax bills you don't need to run state government unless you want to make changes in the current tax code. So sometimes they're hard to get. I mean, my very first session in the House, back in 1995, I was on the tax conference committee as a freshman, and we didn't get a bill. And we had Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate, and we weren't able to get a tax bill my very first year. When I chaired the committee, Governor Plenty vetoed a very good tax bill in 2007. We haven't had a bill the last 2 years. There's a lot of good stuff in there that really should get done. A lot of it doesn't cost any money. I talked to the House tax chair earlier this week and asked him if we could do an early bill without a lot of spending in, and just try to get some of the things that we absolutely all agree on from last year's bill passed early. I didn't get the warmest reception, but we did end the conversation by saying, let's go out and have dinner and maybe we can figure something out. But I hope we can do it in 2 steps, because oftentimes the tax bill is the last bill of the session. It's kind of the closer. And sometimes we just kind of run out of time when the budget bills push right up to the end. So it would be good to get some of the work done early. A lot of this, almost everything in last year's bill has already been conferred out, and there's really little disagreement about. I tried to offer last year's tax bill on the floor the first week of session when we did the federal conformity bill, but I couldn't convince my Senate Republican colleagues to support my amendment, or we could maybe already have it on the governor's desk.
Well, time, I want to say, is something that comes up a lot for those of us who were not legislators watching what happened last year. Everyone is urging for us to have a conversation with our colleagues to make sure that things get done in a timely manner, so that when we do need to have the difficult debates, we do have the time to make sure that we get the work done that the people send us to do.
I think there is a slightly different view, though, and when you look at the surplus, there's a way to say that we're over collecting, and that we need to use this opportunity to give back to Minnesota families and Minnesota businesses. It may not be necessary for running the state to have a tax bill, but it is important. It is an important tool for our economic growth, and we heard just this morning how important the research and development tax credit is to the state. We were the very first state to offer that tax credit, and others are copying us and competing with us. And the legislative auditor, I think, said it really becomes a zero-sum game. We are truly competing. When we lose, we are losing to another state, and when we gain, we're gaining from another state.
So I gather the legislative audit, thank you for bringing that up. The legislative auditor's report was generally positive towards this tax credit, that it does in fact produce effective results. Am I hearing you correctly?
Correct.
Well, it's interesting, if you want to look back in time, thousands and thousands of years, if you want to know what was important to a society, any society, you look at what their tax code was, because tax policy is kind of social engineering. We create incentives because we want people to do things, and we do that in tax policy. We want people to give to charity, so we give them a tax deduction if you give to charity to encourage people to give more to charity. We want people to own homes, so we allow them to deduct their property taxes from their income tax and their mortgage interest from their income tax. And so a lot of tax policy is really about trying to incentivize and drive behavior in our communities, and the research and development credit's a good example of trying to encourage investment in research. I enhanced that research and development credit big time in 2010 and made it refundable for a period of time because it has been a successful program. I was a little disappointed in the legislative auditor's report today because it didn't show the kind of success I was hoping for, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to give up on it either, because sometimes research takes years before it ever brings out fruition.
I think it's really also important to remember that taxes can have a negative impact, and the one that I would single out is the statewide business property tax. We are one of a very small number of states that have a tax like that, and it's set up to have an automatic escalator, so it puts an increasing burden on our businesses, our job providers, and one that was partially addressed in last year's tax bill. And I certainly hope relief from that statewide business property tax as part of this year's effort.
Long history to it. I was in the room when that was done in 2001, and the state chamber supported the proposal we currently have in law. There were wholesale changes made to the tax system, property tax system, in 2001. And if we've got some money around and can revisit that, it was a very good proposal in last year's tax bill, especially for small Main Street businesses. And that's the approach I'd like to continue to take this session if we can get to a bill.